Very nice, very nice.
Makes the post editing a little easier. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, Jeff?
Yeah, it's cool with this little background thing that's going on right now.
All right. Welcome to the K Podcast, everybody. It's your boy Jarizi. We got my boy Kyle over here, and we have a special guest today. We got Jeff Chan from MMA Shredded, the OG YouTuber fighter. Get that straight. It wasn't Jake Paul, man. It was this guy.
I wish.
And we have him in the cave. He joins us on the K Podcast.
Yeah.
Jeff Chan from MMA Shredded. What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I love podcasts. They're always fun.
Hell yeah. You know what? Like I mentioned, I've been following you since 2014. I attribute you into my basic foundation of knowledge of fighting before actually going into the gym, you know, and actually expanding on that. So first of all, thank you. And man, what got you started in this martial arts journey? Was it always something that you've been a part of?
So I started training when I was 15, and I didn't have any like special reason for training or starting. I just had a good friend of mine at the time who brought me into the gym, started Muay Thai, and kind of never stopped from there and just treated it like a sport. And when you stay in something for a very long time, you eventually compete and so on. That's pretty much what happened.
So did it start off with Muay Thai? It wasn't like a karate class you took as a kid?
I started with Taekwondo when I was like 10 years old, and I got to like yellow belt. So it's not a very long time. So it's unfair to say that I started with Muay Thai, but I would say I started with Muay Thai when I was 15. Taekwondo was like a very short period of my life.
Okay. So, and then Muay Thai, when did you know that, hey, I have something over here, you know?
What do you mean by have something over here?
Well, obviously there was passion in that. So that's the first light that would cause the wick to start burning. But the passion or the feeling that, hey, I could go pro with this. I can compete with the best. I have what it takes to, you know, be right there with the best of them.
So the truth is I never actually wanted to fight or be a professional fighter. I started training for fun, and usually the next step to competing is your coach will recommend that you fight, and they'll be like, hey, you should fight. And at the time, my coach at the time, Jeff Harrison, actually was the one who was calling me Junior Masato, who's like a K1 legend. And he was saying like, you should definitely fight. And then, I took one fight, and then next thing you know, I got 10 fights. Next thing I got like 20 amateur fights, and it was just amateur Muay Thai. And then one day he was just like, you should fight in MMA professionally. And at this time, I didn't even have any jiu-jitsu under my belt. He just said, you should go fight in MMA because these MMA guys can't strike. And so I think I was 19 at the time. And I thought like, hey, well, I'm already, fighting and trying this sport out. Why not get paid to do it? And when you're 19 and someone offers you to be a professional fighter, you're like, hey, why not? So I took that one fight as a pro fighter, as an MMA, and I won by TKO. So it was a pure striking fight, and that's how it started.
That's awesome. Did you even care to supplement your ground and grappling game then, or did you kind of fall in love with the striking at first?
I didn't touch jiu-jitsu until I made that transition into MMA. So I went into my first pro MMA fight as a white belt in jiu-jitsu, which was not smart, but I pulled it off for the first fight. And then the second fight, I went up against an actual wrestler and jiu-jitsu guy. And, the first round went well with the striking, but he eventually took me down and choked me out.
I see.
And then I never fought again until I got my purple belt.
What was that learning curve like to have to, try to acquire that jiu-jitsu skill set in such a short period of time to try to, compete with the guys that had that in their arsenal?
I guess I didn't really, for the first fight, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I was just told that my striking will destroy these guys in MMA.
Yeah, we've seen it.
I'm taking notes.
and like anti-jiu-jitsu. And again, for the first fight, it did go well. And then the second fight, obviously, he was a lot more skilled in the grappling department. So I learned that I would need to up my jiu-jitsu game if I were to continue competing in MMA.
Did you find that same passion you did for Muay Thai with jiu-jitsu, or was it something kind of like, man, like cardio, you know, the main reason why fighters run when they don't like doing cardio is to avoid being tired in a fight. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of your why of going to jiu-jitsu, or did you find some kind of passion in it too, like you did with Muay Thai?
To be honest, initially when I made the transition into jiu-jitsu or into MMA, I did that fight. Then I went back to Muay Thai and I would train a bit of jiu-jitsu. Then I'd take another Muay Thai fight and train some more jiu-jitsu. And it took me a long time until I actually started to really, really like jiu-jitsu. So at the beginning, it was kind of like I'm doing it only because I want to get to MMA. Mm-hmm. Now I really love jiu-jitsu almost as much as I do in striking. But yes, at the beginning, I didn't have that strong passion for jiu-jitsu. I always thought like, oh, I'm just doing it because I need it for MMA.
Right.
I see.
And when it comes to martial arts or any sport or anything in general, the better you get at it, the more you like it.
It's one of those things where you start kind of getting it as you're on the path, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Man, when I first took my first jiu-jitsu class, I was mainly training boxing, and I would run all the time. That was one of my factors of running. I didn't want to be tired, so I felt like my cardio was in tip-top shape for boxing. Mm-hmm. Up until I went to jiu-jitsu, man, like the cardio that you need for jiu-jitsu is a whole different animal.
I would just say it's a different kind of cardio, because if you're a jiu-jitsu guy and then you start doing Muay Thai, you're gonna feel the exact same thing.
True.
Yeah. And if you're in shape for Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, and then you go swimming and you start swimming, you're gonna think swimming is so hard. So
that's true. And for me, just judging off what I've seen online, you seem to have not just the athletic and the physical coordination to perform these moves, and I mean, like your head movement to counters are seamless, but you also have the mind and the awareness to know what's going on during the fight. And I don't know, it seems like you almost are aware, because I heard about this with a lot of video editors. They kind of know and see the video in the editing phase as they're filming it, you know? Do you kind of have that cerebral outlook when fighting as well? Or are you just kind of in the moment, you don't even think about that?
I would say, I have a lot to say on this topic. With the first one being, I've learned a lot through watching my own sparring. And a lot of things I do is kind of natural. So I would say that, like, when I started training martial arts, I was one of those kids that were naturally good at it. So I picked up things fast. And there's a lot of techniques that I wasn't actually taught it. It just came out as I did hard sparring. Because when you're hard sparring, you don't think as much and you kind of just rely on reaction. And then I would learn from my own videos, when I started filming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then obviously, if you watch a lot of fights, watch a lot of YouTube, watch a lot of, your favorite athletes. I'm a visual learner, so I can learn a lot from just watching a fight. So if I watch a UFC fight, for example, I watch Dominic Cruz and I see what he does, I have the ability, because I'm a visual learner, to just watch it, practice it, where some people need to be told exactly what to do. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're a visual learner, when it comes to martial arts, it's definitely better than the other ways of learning.
I see. I agree with that. And so were you primarily filming for your record keeping and to review your movements and maybe weaknesses that you don't really see, and then it kind of shifted into, man, I'll just upload it for people? Or how did that come about?
So actually, I didn't start my YouTube channel until 2015, 2016, I believe. And I started training in 2007. So it's been, I gained quite a bit of experience even before starting my YouTube channel. And how that started was I attended Sean Fagan's Muay Thai camp in Thailand. And I was inspired by what he did, which at that time he was already making a living off training, teaching, just doing Muay Thai. That's all he did, like as a YouTuber. And YouTube was the last thing I thought I'd ever do. But he was telling me like, oh, like you could do what I did, or you could do what I do if you just made content. And I guess he kind of like inspired me and gave me the idea, but I didn't really believe that I could make a living off martial arts. So I started the channel thinking maybe one day, I could do what you're doing. But for the most part, I'm going to be starting this channel as a way to vlog my martial arts journey. So if I learn something new, I can film it, put it up, not really care whether people watch it or not. Because back in the day, you would see these guys bring notebooks to jiu-jitsu, and you'd write notes. Right. A little notebook, and then like 3 weeks later, you'd read it to review it. You'd be like, what on earth? It makes sense. So once I started filming the things that I've learned, it was a game changer. Like I don't need to read my writing and trying to figure out what I was thinking at the time and why I wrote this word instead of this word. And filming is a lot easier, obviously.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think two of my first content creators that I noticed were Sean Fagan and Sylvie Douglas E2.
Right.
Yeah, and man, she's amazing. She started from like nothing. She had like some random trainer here in the US, and then
I remember those videos. In the basement.
She devoted her whole life. She went to Thailand, uprooted everything, and then like now she has like 100+ fights, and it's crazy, man.
It is pretty crazy.
It's also cool too to document the beginning, because if you're going to be on that path for a while, it's cool to see where you came from.
The progress. Right.
Do you wish it's an obvious question. You probably wish you filmed everything, huh? Like even from the beginning, or?
Oh, absolutely. But nowadays it's actually very normal to film sparring, and I'm not saying I'm the first, but I do believe I'm like one of the first people who made it. I'm one of the first people that made it normal to film sparring.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, and even some gyms now, it's like you should never film your sparring because you don't want other people to see your footage. And back in the day when I started filming people film tutorials, but people never film their sparring. And back in the day when I started filming my sparring, there would always be students that would like kind of give me the eye and be like, oh, like what's Jeff up to again now? Like, why is he like filming all this? Now it's the complete opposite. Now people are like, Jeff, we're sparring. Are you gonna take the camera out? And they want it to be posted. But back in the day, it was the complete opposite. I was always that guy who's like taking out the camera and filming. Like, what is he up to? So it was a lot harder back then.
They're like, no camera? I gotta go.
It's funny because I joke around, but I'm half joking and half not. But I try to not spar if I'm not going to film, because I'm at a point in my life where like, why lose brain cells if I'm not going to make content out of it?
Yeah, you spar hard, man.
Yeah, we see a video with Hard to Hurt.
To be fair, I always hit as hard as I get hit. And there's a lot of misunderstandings. There's a lot of people who think that I'm the one who starts hard sparring first, but I promise you, I always let my partners dictate how hard they want to go.
You probably don't know how hard you're hitting, bro, because when I watch your sparring, you look intense. You look like a problem, dude. Every time it's like you go high, and then it's like a leg kick followed by another leg kick, and then a pause, breaking the rhythm, and then another leg kick. It's like
to be fair, sometimes they walk into the shot, but you do add a few leg kicks after that.
Okay, well, to clarify, when it comes to those combos, that the intensity of the sparring has already escalated. But I'm saying when we first start off, I always let my partners dictate how hard they want to go, and I'll admit, it's partially ego as well. If someone hits me hard first, then I will immediately amp it up and I will finish the round hard. And I have yet to be like, hey, you want to just cool off and chill? Although that's something I should do.
We've yet to see that too, bro.
No, I have to admit, even your videos where you do explain that, hey, it got heated here and this is what happened. Like, I don't see it, man. Like, I don't see you shifting the gear to a higher level. You know what I mean? I do see a clean shot, and that happens in sparring. You know what I mean? You might walk into a right straight when you didn't think it was coming. And obviously, if you walk into a cleaner shot like the Pacquiao Marquez, it's devastating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always misunderstandings because there's always different weight classes, and people who are significantly bigger may feel like they're going light, but they're obviously a lot harder. And I pride myself on control, so I know when I'm hitting hard and I know when I'm escalating it. And if someone's heavier is going light, but his punch still rocks my head back, I feel I need to hit a little harder to even his pace. And then he sees that I'm going harder, then he goes harder, and then we both go harder. But with that said, I would say I have just as many videos of me doing technical light sparring where it's just touch, 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 touch. And it doesn't. Right. It really depends on the sparring partner. Now, the truth is I tend to post more of the hard sparring simply because it just gets views.
For sure.
It's more entertaining. But if you ask anybody that actually knows me in person or trains with me on a regular basis, 90% of my sparring is light and technical.
Man, Jeff, are there any chances of you sparring with the CM boxing guys?
You know what? I'm down to make content with anybody as long as
that'd be badass.
Yeah, it's not about would I spar with this guy or would I, it's do I have the opportunity? I would love to. I would love to spar with any person with a name, you know. But it's just, do I have the opportunity? Do I have the luxury to spar with this person? Would he even spar with me? Am I even special enough?
I think that would be beneficial for both brands. But yeah, you mentioned that at the beginning. Yeah, I understand that too. When you whip out the camera to spar, it's like, oh, this fool's about to record us. You know what I mean? Probably gonna show off or whatever.
Yeah.
But then, like, as the modern days start taking over, it's let me set up my camera too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I have developed a reputation for being very fair with what I post. So people, at least who know who I am, know that I'm not going to post a highlight reel of just me winning. I always, if it's unless it's a tutorial, which is different. The tutorial is me showing me teaching a technique followed by obviously sparring footage of me landing it. And then I will even add failed attempts. But if it's just like, say, me sparring this person and it's a full session, I will make sure to leave every shot that I land and every shot that I get hit with. And I've gone to a point where if I'm sparring somebody and I'm dominating too much, I won't post it because I know people are just going to think I'm just trying to make a highlight reel for myself.
Yeah. So how is that? How do you pick your sparring partners for content? You kind of feel them out and be like, okay, this guy won't do anything, unpredictable because
not all in that way. So I just film. I mean, right now I'm actually in New York and my fiance is in Toronto. So we're actually doing long distance for a year. So I've been filming less unless I feel like bothering someone to film for me, or there's like a special somebody that's here and I'm like, hey, can we get this film? So I just film whenever I get the chance. But prior to that, and when I get back living with my fiance, she usually helps me film whenever I spar. So I don't pick and choose who I spar with. I just show up to sparring class and I film everything. And usually what I do is after I film my sparring, I'll go over and watch it all, just to analyze and learn for myself, number one, but also if I can see a theme, then I'll title. So for example, I go into a sparring session at a new gym and say I spar a guy who's 300 pounds and he's 6'2". I'll be like, sparring giant. You know, that's just like a name I came up with. Or if I happen to have sparred a guy who's a karate world champion, then I'll make a video called Sparring World Champion. So I watch the video first, then I try to put a theme or a title to that video. I see. And if there's nothing, then I just break down those, or I break down techniques that I've pulled off in the sparring session, and I add it to a future tutorial.
How long is that editing process, bro? Because there have been specific videos on like one technique that you're trying to land in sparring, and it's like 20 different clips. So you must be like skimming through like 2 hours of video looking for that one elbow to land 20 times.
Yeah, and is it all you? Do you have a team that like you work with to do this?
It's just me and my fiance, and my fiance, she doesn't touch the editing. She does the business side of things, so the back end of things. Editing is all me, but it's actually not as hard as you think, and you'll realize that once I explain it to you now. So if it's a sparring breakdown, meaning I'm sparring karate world champion or whatever the title of the video is, if I'm sparring one person in the whole video, it takes me maybe less than an hour to break it down. Sometimes I break it down a lot. Sometimes I only break down a little bit of it. Sometimes I just show the highlight reels. It really depends on, like, there's so many factors that help me decide whether I want to break it down, keep it a short video, or make it a long video. In terms of the tutorial, a tutorial can take a long time because I want to collect enough footage to make it a quality tutorial. So if I'm trying to teach the jab cross and I've only landed it twice and I only have footage of it twice, then I tend to just leave the project open and work on other projects. And then if, 2 or 3 weeks from now I land the jab cross again, then boom, I take that, I add it to the tutorial. But I only landed 3 times, so I'm just going to not complete the project yet and just keep doing other projects. And I landed it again. Okay, now I have like six times I landed it. Now I'll add it to the tutorial. I'm like, okay, I think it's good enough. If that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And so I would assume that you have probably like times where you have multiple projects ongoing.
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously I've upgraded my technology throughout the years, but at the beginning I didn't have the greatest computer or MacBook, and I wouldn't be able to edit so many projects on the MacBook because it would freeze.
Right.
So then that would cause me to export and finish the video before it's completed. Whereas now I have a bigger desktop and I can save more footage and slowly add to it while working on other projects.
So I'm curious, let's say you're doing like a jab cross tutorial, right? Yeah. Like it's an ongoing thing that maybe you've been working on for a month. Do you actively try to slip those jab straights in sparring to be like, I got it?
100%. I will go into a sparring session. Well, actually, I teach my students this. I tell my students, you should be going into, whether it's jiu-jitsu or striking, you should be going into sparring with a goal. You shouldn't be going in just to freestyle it. You should be going in with a purpose. And I'll literally go into a sparring session. For example, Sean O'Malley does like a spinning back fist into a roundhouse kick. Right. And it's like a crazy like tornado combination. And I literally did that like 20 times in my sparring session because I literally went to the sparring session doing that. And I'll have students or partners, they'll be like, hey, Jeff, like what fight are you trying to imitate today? What kind of combos am I going to expect? Like they're just joking around. But yeah.
Is that to strengthen the muscle memory? Is that the
no, it's just if you want to get better at something, you need to practice it. You need to literally keep trying it over and over again, even though your partner knows you're trying to land that.
Yeah.
To me, that's dope because it's like you move from the practicing drilling phase into the applying into real time phase.
Yeah, that's the best way to really learn something. Drilling is one thing. You need to be able to drill it without resistance first. Like you need to bench press the bar before you put on weights. But then, yes, you need to apply it in sparring. And another tip that people misunderstand is when you first learn a technique, you should try it on someone that's less experienced than you. Because if you try that technique on someone that's better than you, you're going to be like, fuck this technique, it doesn't work.
Jabs suck.
It's true. There's a lot of people, on YouTube who leave comments who will be like, oh, you only spar people who suck. Well, the truth is there's countless of videos of people beating the crap out of me on my channel But yes, the truth is, when it comes to tutorials, there's a mixture of experienced guys and beginners. Because if I'm going to try a move that I just watched a UFC fighter do online, and I'm going to try it for my first time in sparring, I'm going to do it against someone who's not that good and work my way up and do it on better people and better, and then harder sparring and so on.
You know what I love too about your videos is the failed attempts too. I feel like those you could learn a lot about that, because it's not just, hey, this didn't work, but it also shows the counter for that move, so you avoid that as well.
Yeah, and it also tells viewers, like, hey, I'm not perfect, and you're going to miss and fail a lot of times too before you land it.
That's awesome. So going back to sparring, I feel like in the beginning, like I said, it's kind of like, oh, who's this guy pulling out his phone? And I feel like now they know you. It's like, oh, pull out your phone, let's go record. But then I feel like now you've become this figure in the internet, the sparring, like MMA Shredded. And do you think, or do you feel? Well, I feel like personally, looking in from outside, it seems like there's a target on your back when you go sparring, right?
Sometimes.
You say that
and
so
I mean, based on seeing your videos, you answer the call all the time. How do you deal with that? Is there ever time you were like, hey man, like we're just sparring, or do you just rise to their level?
I get in trouble by my fiance all the time. But and as I get older and as I become more mature and get rid of my ego, the next time someone goes hard on me for sparring, I actually tell them, like, hey, this is just light sparring. But then I think, like, it's gonna be good footage.
That's awesome.
So it's hard. It's hard. At the end of the day, if you really watch my videos religiously, you'll see that I post a lot of technical sparring, and whenever I do, I will do like a voiceover saying, like, hey guys, this is how you should spar. This is how you'll get better, by doing light technical sparring. Hard sparring is good for pushing the cardio. It's good for getting used to the intensity if you're in fight camp. But if you're off camp and you're just trying to get better, you need to do light technical sparring. And that's what I promote all the time. But when I do post a hard sparring video, it always gets the most views.
Everybody has different definitions of light technical sparring. What would you define as light technical sparring? Just trying to land, certain techniques to the body, like having targets in mind?
Light technical sparring to me is just controlled sparring. Like, I can punch you without gloves and not hurt you. I can spar bare shin and not hurt you. Like, the kick should bounce off of you. If you've watched guys spar, they spar bare shin all the time, and they can spar fast but not hurt you. So you should be able to throw a kick very fast and very intense, and the kick should bounce off, but it shouldn't inflict any pain. And that's technical sparring.
With control. Gotcha.
With control, yes. And a common mistake is for people to snap the kick. And even though it's a light snap, it inflicts pain. And then if you're kicking with control and he's snapping and flicking the kick, that's also another way that it escalates.
Yeah, it's true. One thing, I grew up playing basketball, and going into fighting, I kind of carried it over, was, I would copy different basketball players' shooting styles. Like, oh, Kobe, Rasheed Wallace shoots like this, and that. And then going into fighting, something that kind of drew me to your videos first was the signature moves. That tells me you're very cerebral too as a student of martial arts. Was this kind of something that you noticed individually, or was this something that, like, you caught on? You're like, hey, I'm gonna do a video on these signature moves. Was this like a Rolodex you had in your mind that you just put out as content? So
it started off with TJ Dillashaw. I think that was my first fighter I did, and I just saw him do a combination. I'm like, damn, that was a slick ass combination. And then I started like replaying the video, and then I started drilling it myself, and then I tried it in sparring, and I got on footage, and I'm like, hey, why don't I just like make it how to fight like TJ Dillashaw? And then that's how the series started. And so then I started doing several different UFC fighters, and I do them a lot less now because at the end of the day, most fighters, they do the same thing. They throw a jab cross, they throw a hook, they throw a low kick, they throw your usual combinations. So because I've made videos of specific UFC fighters already, it's very hard to continue doing on every fighter because it's like I'll do a video on Cain Velasquez, but he throws a jab cross or he throws a cross hook or he throws a low kick. There's nothing special. But if there's a guy that comes around like Sean O'Malley where he's a little bit more fancy, or Dominic Cruz with the head movement, or TJ Dillashaw with his high kicks, I need a fighter with like a very specific, unique style that I can just make him different.
With that said, Jeff, I have a specific age-old question that I think people want to know. So when we're taught throwing the hook, right, the lead hook, it's palm in, thumb up, right? But if the target is farther away, what Dwayne Ludwig from Bang Muay Thai and TJ Dillashaw teach is to turn and throw it like that. Is that what you believe too?
Yes, I punch with my palm down. I turn my knuckle in, and I punch with my arm almost straight, actually.
The further away the target is.
Yeah, well, I'm just an outside fighter and a distance fighter in general, so you will rarely see me throw hooks like this. I'm always throwing hooks like this because I like to be long, and I like to fight on the side.
Gotcha. Did you get that distance control, that range from Connor a little bit? Like
Connor definitely had an influence. Yeah.
I can see it, man. I could see the wider stance, kind of using that long guard to kind of gauge and keep him away a little bit.
The bounciness. Yeah. So I started with Muay Thai, and Muay Thai, you stand very tall, you shell up a lot, and one of the fighters that I looked up to a lot was Walkout, like everyone does. Yeah. He has a very tight shell guard, walk forward and just smash. But I felt like I was taking too much damage to the head. Like even though you're blocking, even though you're wearing gloves and the punch hits your glove and the glove hits your head, you're still losing brain cells.
Yes.
I feel like I was getting slower. I feel like I was just getting hit too much, and I was losing my memory. Maybe it's just through age, and it's a placebo effect because I know that I'm getting hit as well. So then I started changing my style a bit and started becoming more evasive, watching more like Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw and Anderson Silva, and then watching Lyoto Machida and George St. Pierre with karate. I started changing my stance and learning more karate. So I'll stick with the same Muay Thai weapons, but I'll use the karate footwork and the hands down style. And ever since I started adapting that style, I just never went back.
Yeah, I like your guard because it's not necessarily hands down. It's almost like hand play, right?
Yeah, I'll change it up. If my opponent is far enough, I'll drop my hands. The second you get closer, then my hands will come up.
Yeah, we call you the original style bender, man, because you were doing that before. I think Izzy debuted in fucking UFC, dude.
Bro, Jeff, speaking of that, man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jerisi, but I had to ask, bro. So speaking of styles, I was speaking with Jerisi right before the podcast, and we wanted to even compare you to Bruce Lee because I know you've been training with some Jeet Kune Do guys. I first started Jeet Kune Do at a place called OC Kickboxing. Cool. Trained under Dan Sullivan, who trained under Dan Inosanto, the Filipino guy, the Cali guy. So when I saw those videos of you beating up Jeet Kune Do, I was like, dude, he is the style bender. He is. He's the reincarnation of Bruce, man.
I got my butt beat as well by someone named Teddy specifically. He's a very, very good martial artist with a Muay Thai background, though.
Yeah. So do you think, because I do amateur Muay Thai, I have a losing record at the moment, but it's coming back up because of you, man. This podcast is going to inspire me. I'm going to win this thing. But how do you feel? Because I get criticism when I train at different gyms. I get criticism for using your type of style. I kind of model myself after you a little bit. Trying to keep my big head out of out of the center line. You know, it's an easy target.
Yep.
How do you feel about using, you know, the Jeet Kune Do wide stance in a Muay Thai
setting
format? Yeah. Do you think that's like frowned upon? I feel like it's frowned upon in Orange County, to be honest, man.
I would say that the style that you're talking about is not more so the Jeet Kune Do stance or style, but more of like the karate hands down style.
Yes.
But with that said, to answer your question, if I walked into a gym and nobody knew who I was, and the coach didn't know who I was, the coach would come up to me and be like, "Put your hands up. Don't drop your hands. Keep that chin tucked. Keep them super tight." If they knew who I was and saw or knew my experience, then they wouldn't say anything. So what happens is I get a lot of students or people online who learn from me and copy me, and because they're a beginner, the coach will tell them not to, because the truth is it's more dangerous and it's more risky. But if you know the rules, you can break the rules. And if you have experience and you can manage distance, then it's okay. So
love it.
So I don't know if your coach knows you very well. I don't know how experienced you are, but if you walk into a gym, I am not surprised at all that your coach would tell you, "Hey, cut that shit out. Put your hands up." But if Wonder Boy walked in that gym, kept his hand down, I guarantee that the coach wouldn't say anything. Same with Dominic Cruz. Same with any, fighters that are known. So it's simply about experience and whether you can manage that distance or not.
I had the same problem as you, because the Thai style is just like you said, Wukao, just stand in front of them, move your head a little bit, bang, take damage, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was taking way too much damage, man. And, I figured, maybe boxing a little bit and a little bit of more lateral movement would be effective. And it was, but I went, not my current gym, another gym that I trained at for like a couple weeks. They're like, "Man, you're not one of us, bro. You're not one of us. You gotta teep right. You gotta, stand there with your knee bouncing." And I'm like, I'm just gonna get hit, dude. Like, it's not working for me. I don't want to get beat up,
One of the most important traits that a coach should have, in my opinion, is the ability to see that not one style is meant for everybody. And
right.
If you're not super jacked and you're not 6 feet tall, then maybe that style's not for you. Or it just depends who you're fighting. So if I'm fighting someone smaller, I will shell up and I will pressure forward and I will kind of like bully the guy, like pressure forward. If I'm smaller, I'll do the opposite. So you should adapt to who you're fighting.
Right.
Yeah. So it raises the topic of
one more thing. Another huge thing is, are you competing or are you sparring in MMA, or are you training for MMA, or are you training for the streets? Because if you shell up and stand in a tall stance and just get in my pocket and it was MMA or the street, I will double leg you across the field.
Hey, I'm sure you would, dude.
So you can't stand tall like that in MMA or in the streets, unless like you have like crazy jiu-jitsu experience and like you're not scared to go to the ground. So there's so many different factors. But for me, I'm always thinking like I'm striking for MMA and I'm striking for self-defense.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I feel like every gym, if they don't really know you, they kind of run you through the generic course, right?
Sure.
Right.
Until, they see you fucking beat up some of their students. They're like, "Oh, hey,
or just to see
that works, right?"
Yeah. But like whenever you go to any gym, doesn't matter who you are, I'm always as respectful as I can, and I act as if I'm a beginner. And if the coach tells me to put my hand up, I'll put my hand up until I start sparring, because then it's like, hey, I'm caring about my own safety, not yours.
Right. So yeah, my question, you've been all around the world training at different gyms. Do you have a home gym? And what was the most memorable place that you trained at, and what takeaway did you get from that?
So to answer your first question, I do have a home gym in Ottawa, Gracie Baja, and that's the gym that I'll go back to whenever I'm back at home. I'm currently living in New York, and I'm teaching full-time at Glory Martial Arts Center. And yes, I do travel quite a bit. And what was your question again? Memorable thing.
Memorable gym moments or what?
There's been so many gyms that I've been to, and they're all great gyms. So it's not really about which gym was the best. It was the people that I met and the content I created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How was the TriStar gym with Faraz Zahabi?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Faraz is a really good coach, very humble, very knowledgeable. I love the way he teaches, and a lot of fighters. And I would have stayed at TriStar. The reason why that made me not think it was not a right fit for me was simply because they don't allow filming. There's simply too many pro fighters there, which is totally understandable. But for me, my goal is not to be world champion. My goal is not to not continue fighting. My goal is to keep growing the channel and run my business and be a coach. And I'm a content creator at the end of the day. So if I can't film, then the gym's not for me. But I love that gym. It's amazing, and I recommend it to everybody.
That's so dope. So I see that you're doing these trips to Thailand to do striking seminars.
Yep. So I'll do seminars around the world, but these specific camps or retreats they're a week or 2 week long, and I basically host a camp at a gym in Thailand. We train twice a day, every day, and going to Thailand next in February 25th.
Heck yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's a pilgrimage for a Muay Thai fighter to train in Thailand, right?
Yes.
Kyle, where you at? You should go.
I know, man. And that brings me to another question, Jeff, because me and another buddy, we had pipe dreams prior to my losses. We had pipe dreams of opening up a gym. And, logically, in order to open up a gym, you want to have credibility, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the coaches that I trained under, they had fights under their belts, some of which were title belts, So do you think it is absolutely necessary, especially if you're going to teach Thai boxing, to go to Thailand and have some fights under your belt? I think it's 100% necessary, right?
I think it helps, but I have heard many, many, many times that you don't need to be a fighter to be a good coach. In fact, when you're a super good fighter, you're a worse coach, and when you're more of a coach than a fighter, you're a great coach. And I hear this at like all levels. But with that said, I do think having a bit of experience and just having been in the ring is enough experience. But yeah, just because you're a good fighter doesn't mean you're a good coach. It doesn't mean you can break it down. It doesn't mean you have the same fight IQ, and doesn't mean you can see and break things down the same way. Because some fighters are successful because they're tough and they have heart, and they just work hard, and they win through being tough. Like a lot of fighters, they win through shelling up, standing in front of their opponent, taking a lot of shots, and just trading and winning through toughness. But that doesn't, I wouldn't teach my student to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we're in a new era of I feel like the pandemic kind of accelerated that, where there's a lot of learning material now online. Mm-hmm. Like I said, your content inspired me and kind of got me started. What do you think about the modern day of martial arts training? Do you think you need a home gym now, or you can kind of just gym hop and have your own vlog? You know what I mean? Kind of like what you're doing. I kind of called you the modern day Bruce Lee because you're documenting Bruce Lee had a journal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have a vlog. Like everything is kind of, you might have some videos that you have private just for your sake, you know what I mean? But essentially you're keeping a database of your knowledge and your journey. Do you think now there's enough tools and resources online to become an adept martial artist independently?
Good question.
I think that I've sparred a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds that are significantly better than when I was 15 or 16-year-old, which just shows that now they have access to online tutorials, and they can learn so much faster. Because right now, if you come to a class, there can be minimum 30 to 50 people in a class, and there's just simply too many students to pay attention to everybody. So you either got to pay for privates, or you got to kind of watch the tutorials and practice on your own. Mm-hmm. So it depends, right? But to answer your question, you can get, I believe you can get really good through cross training. In fact, you need to cross train to really grow, but you want a home gym, and you want training partners that you trust and that you're close with, because you want to develop a relationship with those training partners. Because, for example, hard sparring. Mm-hmm. Hard sparring with someone that you just met is good to a degree, because you don't know what he's going to do.
Right.
But it's also very dangerous. Whereas one of my coaches and teammates, Fred Stonehouse, when we spar, we can spar like really hard. But with that said, we spar really hard, but kind of pull the punches. It's like we spar really hard, but I know he won't injure me or hurt me. Mm. Like he will chop my leg to the point where I'm going to limp, and then he'll throw like a super hard, fast high kick. But then as soon as he makes contact, he lets go, and I don't feel it. Like that's how much I trust him. Mm. So you need that kind of training partner. But then sometimes you need to challenge yourself and go to a gym and spar with someone you've never moved with, because he's super awkward and just different.
Right. And I guess like just thinking about it, if you spar with the same people all the time too, you miss out on that kind of edge, that primal fight, the game speed of the technique, right?
Yes. I wouldn't even say game speed, because I can have that game speed with partners that I trust. Mm. I just know what they're doing. Whereas you go to different gyms, there's different styles. Because if you train with me, you're going to learn to fight like me. You're going to be very evasive. You're going to move and run a lot, and you're going to irritate a lot of people. You go to another gym, and their style is completely different. They're Dutch style. They shell. They pressure. Maybe another gym, they're full of grapplers. So like they punch and go right into a grappling. You go to another gym, they're also evasive, hands down. So every gym has their own style depending on the coaches that they provide.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite style of yours? Like as far as a fighter style or anything like that?
I mean, I would say like Conor McGregor. I love his style. Dominic Cruz. I would say I got the low kicks from Jose Aldo. I got the takedowns from GSP. I got the hands down from Wonder Boy. Got the high kicks from TJ Dillashaw. Yeah. There's just so many fighters that I've taken and added to my game.
I see all of that. Everything you just said, I see it, dude. Right? That's wild, dude.
When he said the Conor McGregor to the Dominic Cruz, I saw the fight pattern of him sizing you up, and then, dude, if I had to make a signature moves of Jeff Chan, it'd be the darting two to the trailing low kick, bro.
The darting two. We know your lingo, man. We know
it. Yes. And the darting is from watching like Wonder Boy Thompson. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just mix that in with Jose Aldo's low kicks. Then Dominic Cruz's head movement after,
Yeah, your head movement is impeccable, man. I would definitely see the Dominic Cruz influence in that. As far as your special move, I call it your special move, the darting two to the low kick. Is that something you kind of just saw as an opening? Because when I started sparring, I saw a low kick to the two was like a very fast and effective combo that I had that I just started building on. Was that kind of something that brought you to that combo? It was just kind of like a natural instinct, and then you're like, hey, this is open all the time. I'm gonna start refining it.
I first learned the move from one of my coaches named Crew Devin Henry, and he was one of the first guys I knew that went from pro Muay Thai to pro MMA. And he's the one who taught me, like, as a Muay Thai Dutch style kickboxer, they throw a lot of like cross hook low kick, 1, 2, 3 low kick, a lot of like 5, 6 punch hand combinations into low kicks. And then Crew Devin was telling me, like, in MMA, you're wearing small little gloves. You're not going to be standing in front of your opponent and exchanging like that. You're going to be a lot further away from your opponent, and you're going to be pumping that jab, pumping that cross. You're going to be throwing single shots. And those single shots are going to hurt because you're wearing MMA gloves. So instead of thinking like 6, 7, 8 punch combination into a low kick, where while you're throwing that 7, 8 punch combination, your opponent can change levels at any time and double leg you across the field, Play one shot, move, one shot, move, one shot, move, one shot, low kick, one shot, low kick. And then I developed that style from him. And the cross is one of my favorite weapons. And it just works really well for me.
You know, I think Joe Bazooka Valtellini also teaches this, but using the same side weapons is not something that a lot of people expect. You know, throwing the two and then throwing the same right two. It's not something that I'm prepared for either. Like, I'm always expecting a two and then a switch kick, right? Yes. Or a jab and then a right kick. But when you throw that darting two, no one's going to expect that leg kick to come from their left side, right? So I think that's, along with your broken rhythm and along with that mentality of tricking them with the same side weapons, even tripling it up too, throwing the darting two, right kick, another darting two. These guys are just getting hit from the left.
Definitely. When you're teaching someone who's new, you generally teach them left to right, right to left, just to help them develop that momentum and power in their strikes. But once you get really comfortable with throwing a single technique, then you can start mixing right, because it's called same side striking, right? You throw the right punch, the person parries your right hand, he drops his hand, boom, kick, or body, or head,
Yeah, it reminds me of different variations of I call it the Whitaker special, right? The 1-2 kick.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Robert Whitaker is one of the guys that I've copied as well in terms of hands down. He keeps his hands low. He's very bouncy. Then suddenly
darts. Yeah, I see that. And also from the other side, it's Leon Edwards. He's got the southpaw two kick that won him the belt
with the Usman.
Yeah.
Hey Jeff, now that we're on that topic, Jeff, what do you think about a potential fight between Robert Whitaker and Alex Pereira? Because that was a devastating loss for Stylebender.
I think Robert Whitaker is going to take him down.
Yeah, I think so too. I
think Israel Adesanya was going to win. Could have won if he just went for a takedown. I think he was letting Pereira get way too close with him.
Yeah.
Because Pereira was shelling up and walking right in front of him. And if you look at Pereira's hooks, they were short boxing style hooks. And for you to land those kind of short boxing style hooks, you got to be really close to your opponent. And if Israel Adesanya just threatened more takedowns, he would have backed up a little more. But because he kept letting him get closer and closer and closer, he eventually ate that short little left hook.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned that because it ended in the fence. So
exactly. He let him get so close. But again, I think if that was Robert Whitaker, he would have double legged him for sure. You stand for me, I use a long guard right here, and if my opponent gets within this lead arm, that signals me to strike back immediately, or double leg, or get hit.
Yeah. How about a Pereira versus what's his name?
Khamzat.
Definitely
Khamzat.
I think Jemima. Yeah.
Damn, that guy's a monster, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of a guy who talks shit all the time, being a content creator, there's a bunch of the YouTube comments and stuff. Was that something that you kind of had to get used to, and then you're just kind of you don't pay attention to that anymore, or is it one of those things where sometimes you have time? You know what I mean?
I read every comment. So if you're watching this and you're a hater, I do read your comments. But I am desensitized by the comments now. It used to bother me. I used to feel the urge to respond and explain to them that, the most common, and it's funny because I already spoke about it earlier in this podcast, but I basically, one of the most hated comments that I used to get is, "You only spar people that suck." Okay. No, that's not the case. If you just watch the second video or the video that I released prior to that, you would see that I spar people that are really good, and I got my butt kicked in that video. And then you watch the one video where I win, and you make that comment. Anyways, it used to bother me so much, and I would used to want to explain to them, hey, actually, no, I sparred this guy who's better than me, and I sparred this guy who's better than me. And when it comes to tutorials, you need to spar with people that are not as good if you want to get better at them. And I used to feel the urge to explain that, but I realized that there's a lot of people in this world, and there's a lot of people who are very unhappy in this world. And unfortunately, those are the people that go online and leave negative comments. Like, ask yourself, when was the last time you went on a YouTube video and left a mean comment? Like, who does that?
Yeah. It's projecting, right? Like,
yeah,
you're mostly projecting your insecurities on the content.
Yeah. So when I read those comments now, first of all, I'm used to it. And for me, it's just like, even if I try to explain it, it's not going to help them. It's not going to change.
You just dig yourself further into another hole, huh?
Well, by responding, I'm now losing.
Yeah.
He's now trolled me. And who knows if that guy's just trolling me because he doesn't like me.
Right.
Because there are people who, there'll be people who, like, I recognize their name and they will comment on every single one of my videos negative. But they're still watching all my videos.
Suckers.
Oh, thanks for the
video. Guy. He sucks, but he's got nice 2 and low kick though.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey Jeff, with that said, man, you know, for the most part of this podcast, we've been talking about martial arts. You know, we really want to get to know you just a little bit more. You know, we don't want to, you know, undress you, not to sound weird, but like, what kind of books do you read? I mean, you carry yourself very well. You're articulate. You're a gentleman. You're a monster. You know, in the cage, in the ring, but you seem to have a very good head on your shoulders, a good work ethic. Like, where do you get your inspiration from? What do you read a lot? Do you study philosophy?
I wish I read a lot.
Me too.
I wish I read a lot. I'm actually not good in school. I dropped out of accounting. I actually went to law enforcement because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Interesting.
And I'm no longer in law enforcement, and I'm doing YouTube, which I'm very happy and thankful for. But I would say I'm like a very simple person. I sleep a lot, I eat a lot, I train a lot, and I'm obsessed with making content. So sometimes I'm like, life's very boring, but my business and my channel keeps me entertained.
Mm-hmm. You sound like a Super Saiyan with a business channel.
Yeah, you sound like Goku with a camera, bro.
Well, I mean, I mean, I love traveling, and those are the things that I just training, making content. Food is my life. Without food, I think I'd be a much less happy person. I get excited for food. I get excited for dinner. In fact, I'm eating in probably 30 to 40 minutes from now, and I'm super excited to eat.
Your face is glowing, dude. You got a big smile on your face. Are there any like addictions or vices that you deal with that you can help like other people, like, you know, I don't know, social media
in terms of martial arts or social media,
or just like any addictions in general, like cigarettes?
Addiction.
Yeah.
No addictions.
You're a Super Saiyan.
I don't even drink coffee. I don't drink coffee.
What?
You know what's funny? It's not even funny, but I worked overnight shifts as a security guard for 5 years, full time. So I would work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and I never drank coffee.
Dang, sounds like Jerezy. Jerezy's he works in the medical field, and he doesn't sleep, dude. He hits me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. You ready for this podcast, bro? I got work in 2 hours. What are you doing? He's like, I'm at work, dog. Like, what?
The difference about me is I sleep a lot. I nap every day. I nap every single day.
Yeah, I drink coffee probably like twice during the shift. So there's a difference. I mean, you have to as a like, you're not just a content creator. Your content is kind of athletic, and it's not basketball, bro. Like, your content is sparring. You know what I mean? Yeah. So not only do you have to be recovered, but you have to be, your reaction time has to be in tip-top shape. Mm-hmm. Do you have a regular recovery routine when it comes to, because you spar pretty hard
for the 5th time?
Yeah, and I imagine like, you just mentioned that you don't really spar unless there's the camera, so because it's wasted content, right? But in the heydays of training for a fight at 1 and all that, did you have any go-to recovery regimens?
Your simple go to the sauna, massage gun, massage chair, sleep, and eat a lot. Nothing special really. I stretch a lot as well, but I would say just regular rest. Like I'm a very normal athlete. Like I don't take supplements. Sometimes I will, but I don't do anything out of the ordinary. I'm like a very regular, normal person. And actually, to add to what you're saying, or to fix what you're saying, actually, I do spar even there's no camera, but I'll definitely keep it light sparring. And although I post a lot of sparring videos, people think I spar like 3 times a week, but I spar like once every 2 weeks. Sometimes I spar once a week. I actually don't spar a lot. But just because you see me posting it, that could be filmed like 3-4 months ago or 2 months ago. Like I film whenever I get the chance, and I have content on stock. So I don't have to release a single, or I don't have to film for the next 6 months, and I have content already uploaded and ready.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, us too, for this podcast space, whenever we all get together and we start talking, we're like, hey, shut up. Let's just save it for the podcast. So I think it's kind of similar too, which is kind of hard because we're friends that have known each other since high school. So we're around each other all the time. But ever since we started the podcast, it's like, hey, let's just save it. I can totally relate to that.
For sure. For sure. I mean, do you guys follow David So?
Is he affiliated with Bobby Lee?
Probably. But he is right? From California, and he does the Genius podcast. But anyways, he just brings friends over and just talks. just has a conversation. In fact, when he invited me for his podcast, he kind of just asked me, and then I said sure, and then like the next thing. We went into his room, didn't prep me at all, and it was just like 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and then just started the podcast, and we literally just had a conversation.
Hey, I got a question, Jeff. I can envision you being on Joe Rogan's podcast someday. I'm going to manifest that right now.
That would be cool, but we'll see.
If you do, hypothetically speaking, if he offered you a joint, would you smoke it?
I would definitely.
You would? Yo, what? Yes, but content. That's awesome.
What if it had DMT though?
I don't know. I'm just joking.
I'm just kidding. Speaking of manifesting, man, one of our talking points here was I wanted to manifest you into this influencer circle of fighting. I mean, I like I said before, I think you're the OG of this, and I don't know if it's because they know that and, they're not really calling out the Shane Fazens, you and the actual content creators that do specifically fighting. How do you feel about that I don't know if you see yourself as an OG in this game, but I do. But how do you feel about that? Do you guys feel kind of like left out, or do you feel like that's not even your league because you guys do the real shit? You know what I mean?
Are you referring to like the Jake Paul?
Yeah. Jake Paul, influencer fighters.
I think Jake Paul's way above me in numbers, so I can't really compare myself to him. I think Shane Fazen is in the millions, and I think he is a legit OG. Like he started like 10 years before I did. He's got a lot. Like he's an OG. Yeah. And I'm sure they've reached out to him.
Oh wow!
I just don't think he wants to fight. And I have not been reached out to yet. That's all.
Campaign #MMA Shredded, baby. That'd be awesome. I mean, let's call it, because right now I watched the most recent pay-per-view that they had, and I mean they had all these YouTubers and TikTokers that I haven't even heard of. You know what I mean? So I feel like I talked about this on the podcast. I feel like now more than ever the landscape has changed to where you don't need to go through a promoter or that traditional circuit. Like there's this avenue now where you could kind of just use your followers and your influence to be able to, sometimes you get better paychecks too, just fighting on that card opposed to, the amateur link.
Logan Paul.
Yeah, for sure you get better paychecks. And there's, it's like CM Punk fought and like Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar is a whole different story, but like there's tons of guys who got opportunities to fight in the UFC and they didn't have any experience.
Yeah.
you mentioned, Jeff, that if your goal, your ultimate goal, your pursuit is not to become a world champion, it's to, make your business bigger, to expand your business. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, knock on wood, if this didn't work out, which it's already working out, would you have pursued that fighter life? Because, as an amateur fighter, I'm not getting paid at all. I'm paying to fight and to lose. I'm paying to lose.
You're 100% right. The reason why I haven't fought in the last 2 years and don't plan on taking any fights is because I'm not getting paid what I feel I'm worth with one championship. And I actually take a pay cut, like I lose money by taking a fight. Because I wouldn't be coaching full time. I wouldn't be making content. I wouldn't be in New York. I would be at a more of a fighter's gym where there's guys that are significantly better than me, so I can level up my game. Whereas right now I'm focusing on coaching the channel and just working, and I'm happy being a martial artist. I love my lifestyle right now. When I take a fight, I'm stressed. I'm dieting. I'm sore and my body's broken, but I still got to train hard, and I'm stressing every day about the fight. Like, it's stressful. Fighting is super stressful. And I'm losing money because the amount they pay me is not, like, I'm telling you, I'm losing money.
Wow.
It's a tough road, man, being a fighter. Yeah. Jarizi has a couple fights under his belt too. And the whole process, man, like you said, it's stressful. You're losing money, and you might lose, and God, man, it's in front of, like, a bunch of people that you invited, family members, friends, and it's like, why did I even do this? Like, God. And then you come back. Yeah.
The truth is, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that unfortunately are not in a better situation, and that's all they really have. And so unfortunately people don't have the option. And if they stick through with it, sometimes you can turn out to be like a Conor McGregor or George St. Pierre. Like George St. Pierre apparently was a garbage man.
That's crazy.
Damn.
And it's amazing that they made it this big, but there's a lot of fighters out there, and there's a lot of hungrier fighters out there than I. There are fighters who are more experienced, fighters who started younger than me, fighters with more experience, fighters with more resources. And the main thing, fighters that are a lot more hungry than I am.
Do you envision yourself being like an actual coach for a fighter that you would take under your wing to kind of bring up? Or is it more of like a general, my content is the way I coach. If you want privates, you can come along to this trip, or we could do one-on-ones. So, like, what's the ultimate goal for MMA Shredded?
I would eventually like to open up a gym and settle down. The issue right now is I'm all over the place. I don't know. Like, literally July of last year, I had planned to move to Calgary, but ended up staying in Ottawa, and then was going to move to Toronto, but then I moved to New York. And I'm constantly like changing my mind, don't know where to go. And because my online business allows me to travel a lot, like I'm going to Australia, then I'm going to Thailand, then I'm going to Germany. So I'm like constantly traveling, and I don't know where I'm going to settle. So with that said, because I'm constantly traveling, all I can really do is teach online. But with that said, I actually took a full-time position at Glory Martial Arts in New York right now. And I do privates, but I also teach full-time. So I'm paying attention to the students like every day kind of thing. But I don't know how long I'm going to be here as well.
Come to OC, the long goal.
What was that?
Orange County.
It's a nice place. I've been there twice.
Yeah, bro. Just start a gym here. Give us some discounts.
Or have you
pick up trash?
Have you done maybe a nationwide tour of where you Sanchai used to do that, right? Where he goes around with the Yakao crew.
Yeah, I mean Yakao and Sanchai is like way bigger than me in numbers, but for me, I travel when I get the opportunity. Like when I don't reach out to gyms and be like, "Hey, want to have me as a seminar? Have me for a seminar?" Yeah. Like I just make the assumption that nobody knows who I am. But if someone reaches out to me and invites me for a seminar, I usually will say yes.
Very humble, man. I mean, I put you on a pedestal, so to hear yourself talk about yourself like that, it's more power to you, bro.
Yeah. Thank you. But if I'm being completely honest, I'm not really anybody special. I'm just somebody who is pretty good at martial arts, and I vlog my martial arts, and you can see that I've improved a lot since I started. Like when I first made my first few videos, like when I look back and watch my videos, not only was I really cringy on camera, but my skill wasn't that good. So I got a lot better through just my years of training, just as anyone would be if they were consistent with their training. And the only reason why I've made a career out of it is because I was consistent with my content and I never gave up on it. And the truth is there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of fighters who are better than me. I would say though, I do have a skill for teaching and breaking down techniques. But there are tons of fighters that are better than me with more experience than me. And if they vlogged their content and was as generous with sharing their knowledge, they would also have the same platform. The issue is that they don't. So for an example, nowadays more and more, UFC fighters and like big name fighters are starting their own channels and they want to build a platform because they're seeing that all these other people are doing that. And they're trying and they start and then after like 2 months they give up. But like I wasn't seeing results until like 2 years.
2 years. So you had probably a couple hundred followers for a couple years and you just pushed through it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like I said, I was inspired by the Muay Thai guy, Sean Fagan. And in my head, I'm like, that's what I would like to do. But like, I didn't actually believe in it. So for me, I just treated the channel as my way of journalizing my martial arts journey. And I didn't have expectations for it. And then eventually my sparring footage picked up traction. And I was like, oh, okay, like people like to watch me spar and I'm going to keep doing that. And yeah. And then obviously as I went on, like I found different ways to make different content and different ideas.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. I will say, I do watch a lot of like tutorials. I fall into rabbit holes even before I go train, I'll put on a playlist of, if I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I'll just put on a bunch of positions and different escapes from there. But yeah, I have a lot of your videos under my striking playlist, and the way you articulate the lessons is very easy to digest. So I do appreciate that. And we had this conversation on the podcast previously about how, some people who are, like you said, sometimes good fighters don't translate into good coaches because, yeah, you might have the skill and the dexterity to pull out the moves, but you can't articulate it. Not just, some people are good at it in a sermon, but putting it in a video form to where you can get it auditorially and visually. Like it's I feel like it teaches people a little more. And now that we're in this state of like the age of the internet, there's more of a reach too. So almost like a shortcut, because I feel like in another timeline, you with an actual brick and mortar gym, like you could say that you've reached more people without a brick and mortar gym than you would have if you had one, right?
For sure.
Interesting.
That's the special thing about the internet. Yeah,
it's really cool.
And to add to what you're saying, a fighter may not be able to teach as well as maybe a full-time coach. So I feel that about myself as well. I feel like I have a bit of that natural fighter ability, and then I have the other half of my coaching. And I was telling you earlier on the podcast, there's a lot of techniques that I did naturally in hard sparring. And then when I wouldn't know how to teach it. I wouldn't know what I did until I watched myself spar and literally like slow motion, pause, watch, like, okay, I did this and I stepped my foot like this. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, I have to watch it before I teach it to someone else. Whereas if you ask me to teach it on the spot, I wouldn't be able to.
Got it.
You think about this in your bed before you sleep, huh?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Is it ever? I mean, for me, with podcasts, sometimes I'll be in bed, but I'll be like, "Oh fuck, I'm gonna go edit this right now." Like one of those kind of like I'm like obsessed with the product type thing. Do you have that factor as well?
that's the beauty of having your own business, is that you rather do the work late at night instead of sleep, because it's your own baby. Like this business, this channel is my baby, and I love doing it, and that's what I think everyone should aim to do with their careers or whatever they're doing for work.
Profound advice.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you mind? Like I said, we don't want to undress you, bro. But do you mind if I go through a speed round of questions, just quick questions about you?
Yeah.
All right. Do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
I do.
How do you feel about him?
Oh yeah, Tron.
I have a very terrible attention span, and I always watch some of his videos, and it just ends up being in the background. From my understanding, super smart guy.
Yeah, absolutely. But okay,
I don't know how much of the information I've absorbed, because, like I said, I'm not a very smart person. I'm just like, I have to.
You seem very sort of cerebral, man. Very, very.
I know what I'm
cerebral.
talking about when it comes to martial arts, but anything outside, I can be a little slow.
What was your worst subject in school?
Math, science, English. And you know what's funny? I'll tell you a funny story right now. I know you said these are quick questions, but you guys know what ESL is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you not born here?
Huh?
Were you not born in Canada?
I was born in Canada.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hey,
Oh, that's
you
funny.
get that part 2 to the low kick, bro. Watch out.
So I took ESL for English, and yes, I was born in Canada. So that just shows that I was never like this smart Asian kid. And then another funny story is, my mom told me only recently, actually, but when I was in kindergarten or whatever, like elementary school, my teacher went up to my mom and tried to transfer me to a mentally challenged program, because she thought I was yeah.
Yikes.
Wow.
That's crazy. Okay, are you a fan of Drake?
My mom believed in me.
Moms the best. Moms are the best.
Yes.
How do you feel about Drake? Do you have any feelings about Drake?
He's a good rapper. That's the most.
Who's on your playlist? Actually, people think Jerizy looks like Drake with his mask off. By the way,
That's why I wear the mask.
Yeah, bro. Too much attention, bro. We got to keep the girls away.
How about walkout song?
Yeah, walkout song.
Walkout song. I would say EDM or like old school Eminem. I feel like nowadays music is not as good as they were back in the day. I think people are running out of ideas.
They're all samples now.
What's a good classic like 90s R&B or hip hop song that just makes you feel good, nostalgic?
I would say Linkin Park, In the End, or Eminem.
Nice. Oh my goodness.
Eminem, what's it called? Lose Yourself.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Nice. Good choice.
Yeah, just old songs.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie?
Blood
Let's do it.
Blood Diamond.
Oh,
Blood
man.
Diamond.
I haven't finished.
Blood Diamond or Troy or Gladiator.
Troy's badass.
Heck
Troy's
yeah.
Yeah,
badass
I've
movie.
watched the movie like 10 times.
Why is it? Like what
I just
is
love.
like
I love historical movies and like ancient, like that era, and I like obviously fighting.
Yeah, I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan, and I heard Troy was one of the movies he used to always watch before his fights. Pretty badass.
I didn't know that.
How about this? If you had a $1 million fight and you could pick any opponent in the cage, who'd you
Probably the easiest opponent.
pick? Damn it.
Okay, easiest.
I'm not the smartest Asian too, bro. So I can relate.
Okay, easiest opponent on the UFC roster in your weight class. Wait,
Yeah,
you fight
that's
at
good.
155?
135?
55? You kidding me? Yo, 55s are huge.
Yo, 135 is the killer division, so that's actually a good question.
That's hard. That's really hard.
There are no bad fighters. Patty Pimblett. No, I'm just kidding.
He's a 45er though. 35er, I don't know. They're all scary people. I think it would be very cool to fight Dominic Cruz. because the trouble with him is like trying to hit him, so he moves a lot, and he's not known for like being the most powerful striker. So like I think I could like have fun in there trying to hit him, miss, and when I get hit, it's maybe not as hard as other fighters.
Yeah, he's very top heavy. A lot of good movement, but a little top heavy. I could see that.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him because I feel like the division it's almost like he's not at that Frankie Edgar stage yet, but it's almost at that phase where, hey, maybe it's time, you know what I mean? But who am I?
I mean, that's the same for every fighter, you know, like every fighter is going to hit that age, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you have watched? I know the time is taken right now, but is there anything that you've watched or any movies that you've watched within the last couple of days that could inspire people like us that, you know, are trying to pursue, you know, masculine excellence and doing well in our careers and whatnot?
Anything?
I watch a lot of movies.
The most recent video or movie I watched was Vikings Valhalla season 2, and there's nothing really inspiring about it. It's just a really good show.
Okay, good answer. I'll take it. I'll watch that show.
Good suggestion.
It's really good. It's really good. I really liked it.
Just season 2 or not? Was season 1 kind of bad?
I watched season 1, but I can't remember what happened. But season 2 just came out on Netflix. So,
gotcha.
I got a good question since we're all Conor fans. Is it over for him?
Apparently he's coming back. I don't know. Nobody knows. I think he'll like make a tweet here and there just to stay relevant, which works. And then people think he's coming back. And I don't know. Just if people's talking about him, he's making money.
All right. How about this? The best MMA fighter of all time, regardless of the weight classes
or promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you don't say GSP. I don't think so. I think there's. Okay. I personally don't think so. At least he's great, of course, but I personally don't think.
Pound for pound, dude.
Honestly, I think Demetrius Johnson is one of them, and John Jones.
Yeah,
I argue Demetrius, and John Jones. Who's yours, Kyle?
I say Conor, man. Like I think people don't give him.
His striking, I would say he's one of the best strikers, but obviously not in the grappling.
Yeah, no grappling, but I think his rise, you know, despite all the attention that he got and how, you know, braggadocious and brash he was, he proved himself in the ring. Even just like warming up in the ring, doing those spinning like back kicks and stuff. Like when he fought Dustin Poirier for the first time with the cornrows, I was like, this guy's movement is something that we've never seen before. Like capoeira, breakdancing type of fluidity. Now he looks like he's on roids, dude. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got that steel leg now, you know.
That's true.
I think no respect for Triple C. I think Triple. You know what sucks that I was talking about this. The UFC really didn't put any respect on Demetrius Johnson's name
at all,
and I feel like they're not giving too much respect to Henry Cejudo's name. Those two are arguably top 2 MMA fighters of all time. I would say is in the discussion, right?
I agree. There's just too many fighters. There's too many fighters. Like I think Jose Aldo is. There's too many people. I can't name a specific fighter.
Who would you not want to fight if you got paid? I don't know, $10 million, and you had to fight the greatest fighter. Who would it be?
Now, how about this? Okay, you have $1 million. You have to choose between John Lineker or Rod Tang.
Is this MMA rules?
MMA rules, yeah.
Rod Tang.
Really? Why?
I see it.
If there's
MMA rules, you'll just take him down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's hilarious. Well, we don't want to keep you long, Jeff. I know dinner's cooking, and we know how much you love food. So, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I'll just give this time for you to plug in your socials, your websites, and where people can find you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was a really fun podcast, and I'll hit you guys up if I'm ever in Orange County again.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, you can find me at MMA Shredded.
Awesome,
MMA
bro.
Shredded, and his website also has those retreats, those striking retreats in Thailand.
Yes.
You go elsewhere too, right? It's not just Thailand that you go to.
So it's different each time. I've been to Nicaragua. I've had one in Bali, and I think Thailand is the most popular destination because it's so cheap there, and you can fight there. You can find a fight there so easily. So like people just associate that place for a training camp. So that's why it's been the most popular. But who knows? I can host them literally anywhere. But right now, Thailand is the best place to host it, in my opinion.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Jeff Chan, everybody, MMA Shredded. Go to the YouTube channel, learn how to fight. This is Jarizi. We got Kyle, and this is the Cave Podcast signing off. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a great day, sir. Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
man. Have a good one, guys.
You too.
Thanks, Jeff.